August. A breeze blows in through the open window, and I can faintly hear the chirping of cicadas. The clock strikes 6 in the afternoon. The sun is getting ready to set, and the weather forecast on the radio says it will be another tropical night. The light car carrying 3 people, including me, was driving along a one-lane prefectural road stretching along the river from the downstream area to the middle part of the river. S was in the driver's seat, I was in the passenger seat, and K was in the back seat, the usual group. The only problem was that on K's lap was a bag containing a set of camping tents. He was unable to lie down, and his head was shaking slightly from side to side as if he was in pain. We had talked about camping out on the riverbank today. In addition to K's tent, we have food, sleeping bags, and whiskey and other alcoholic beverages in the trunk of the car. Let's go to the river at night to see fireflies. It was K who initiated the idea. He seemed to know where fireflies often gather. I found this surprising. K is an occultist, and usually this would be let's go to a ghost apartment or let's go to a famous suicide spot. This time, however, it was a reasonable proposal. Let's have a drink while watching fireflies, K said. I had no reason to object. But that would mean that the only one driving the car, S, would not be able to drink. S asked K, why don't you just have a glass of juice? S replied, only if you drink river water instead of alcohol. So we decided to stay overnight on the riverbank to avoid any unfairness. S procured camping equipment from his parents' house. The river gradually narrowed as it moved upstream against the current. As the river continues upstream, the width of the river gradually narrows, and large, rugged rocks become more noticeable than small, rounded stones. We reached a D-shaped junction where the old road and the new road parted. The old road curved along the mountain, while the bridge on the new road was a straight shortcut. The car turned onto the old road. We parked our car near a pedestrian suspension bridge that spans the river. Next to the bridge, there is a path down to the riverbank. S and I split up and took our luggage down to the riverbank. Among our luggage was a large baggage of K, who had fallen ill due to car sickness. The river was flowing with a soft sound. The width of the river was about 14 or 15 meters. The other side of the river was a concrete wall on which a prefectural road ran. As time went by and the sunlight faded, the supposedly clear green became darker and darker, as if it were dripping ink. There were no fireflies. K, who seemed to have finally recovered, told me that they would not appear until it was completely dark. The clouds are out, there's no wind, and it's a perfect day for fireflies. Fireflies seem to dislike light that is not their own, even if it is just a little moonlight. Are you familiar with fireflies, K? Not just fireflies. I'm a doctor of insects. They are rumored to be space creatures that came down from outside the Earth in the first place. Oh, I see, I thought. After all this happened, the 3 of us set up the tent. Since pegs could not be driven into the ground on the riverbank, we tied ropes to trees and rocks to support the tent. Since the tent was designed for a family of 5 or 6, it was quite spacious inside. K soon attached a cooking burner to a small gas cylinder, placed a pot on it, and began to boil water. I wondered if K was a surprisingly outdoorsy person, as I had thought when I saw his skill in setting up the tent. I asked S. He lamented, thanks to, I was taken around a lot as a kid, and then added, no, I still am. K then moved some large stones to create a rough enclosure, gathered and assembled the surrounding trees, and built a bonfire. When I picked up some firewood to help, he said, that's just raw wood, you know. You'll only get smoke. By the time dinner was finished, the sun had long since set, and the area was all orange. For dinner, I threw together chopped cabbage, carrots, onions, Naruto, and fish sausage. It was a messy instant ramen. But despite its appearance, it tasted good, and the pot was soon empty. When the ramen was gone, we poured whiskey into paper cups and toasted the 3 of us. S drank without anything. Small insects were gathering around the tent, perhaps lured by the fire from the bonfire. The bugs, which looked like flies, had bitten me in several places on my arms and legs. "It's a tahilo," Kay said. "When you catch one and look at it closely, the tips of its paws are white. That's why it has white hands." "Alright, let's try to catch it, shall we?" "You didn't come here to see a fly, did you?" "That's right. We came to see fireflies. They haven't appeared yet." It was around 8 o'clock in the afternoon. It was already dark enough. It must be about time. With that, Kay got up, got an empty pot of water from the river, and poured it over the fire. The fire went out and the area became visibly darker. There was no moonlight because of the clouds. The small light from the gas lantern we had placed near the entrance of the tent barely obscured our vision. In the darkness, we did not speak for a while, but silently poured whiskey into our stomachs. "Come to think of it, didn't I tell you guys?" It was Kay who broke the silence. He said, "Around here, once every few years, right around this time of year, there is a huge outbreak of fireflies." Intrigued, I nodded in agreement. I was intrigued, and I responded, "Really, it's not every few years, it's really random. Researchers don't know for sure what causes it. There's a story that's been secretly rumored around here." I couldn't make out Kay's expression. I could barely make out their outlines, but I couldn't see their expressions in this light. I could not see each other's expression in this light. It's not so bad downstream, but in the middle part of the river, there are places where it suddenly gets deep and swirls around. There are quite a few people who drown. Especially elementary school students in the neighborhood. Of course, such places are designated as no swimming areas, but you can't beat a kid's curiosity, you know. I suddenly realized that my glass was empty. I looked for the whiskey bottle, but I couldn't see it. "Well, I've only seen one or two every few years," he said. "But they do seem to coincide. The year of the drowning, the year of the firefly outbreaks. Oh, crack on, crack on. I've got the whiskey." Kay holds out the bottle toward me, and I hold out a paper cup to him. I heard a tap, and a liquid of I don't know what color was poured into the cup, which I could barely make out to be white. I take a sip, and it seems to burn. I ask after a sip and the burning sensation in my throat has passed. Kay laughed and said, "I don't know anything about that. I just came here to watch fireflies." And so, there's another strange thing about that story. Kay continued. The fireflies you see in Japan are usually either Genji Bataru or Haika Bataru. Adult Genji Bataru emerge from May to June, or early July at the latest. So, the ones that appear in August are the Hayaki Bataru, which can be seen almost all year round. It seems that Kay really knows a lot about insects. It is rare for Kay to explain something that makes sense to me, so I feel somewhat uncomfortable. Normally, it is S's role to give such explanations, but he has been drinking quietly without a snack since a while ago. "But," he said, "fireflies don't form in groups. The fact that you can see them all year round means that they don't all become adults at the same time. On the other hand, it is the Genji fireflies that all come of age at the same time. But at this time of the year, the Genji fireflies have finished mating and are dead." Even my drunken head somehow understood. In other words, Kay was trying to say this. "So you're telling me that that light that's coming out in droves might not be a firefly?" Oh, what, you're so perceptive, aren't you? Well, it's more likely to be a normal outbreak of Hyakan fireflies. If they're not fireflies, what are they? I don't know. I've never seen them, demon fire, human souls, or some kind of mysterious fire. You think you'll see it again this year, don't you? Shiranai Shiranai. Then Kay laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, another occult entanglement. I thought I just came to see fireflies today." I wondered if Kay was really Kay after all. At that moment, S, who had remained silent all this time, suddenly spoke up. "It's coming out." I looked down at the river with a start. I couldn't see anything. I stared intently. Something like a blue fireball appeared out of the corner of my eye. This was the beginning of countless bluish-white lights floating on the riverbank. Suddenly, the area became even darker, probably because either K or S had turned off the light from the gas lantern in front of the tent. This allowed us to see the light in front of us more clearly. The light was flickering. All the lights were flickering and flashing at the same time. It was as if the entire myriad of lights were one living thing. As time passed, the lights grew more numerous. They seemed to cover the riverbed and all around us. My thoughts and senses had gone somewhere, and only my eyes were following the lights. I suspected that I was hallucinating because of the strong whiskey. It was such a fantastic sight. I even had the illusion that stars hidden in the clouds had come down here. I think of the fireflies in the stream, and I see their souls that are coming out of my body. Suddenly, I came back to myself. "What is that?" I asked. "It's a Mishikabu," she said. "Who is that?" I asked again, and a sigh came back. "You're a humanities student, aren't you?" For the next several hours, we just kept looking at the starry sky in front of us. The word board didn't even come to mind. The time passed quickly. The number of stars gradually decreased, and when the time passed 10 o'clock in the evening, the light became completely silent. Kay reassembled the fire that he had put out and lit it. The light of the fire was different from the light we had seen just a few moments before. The sound of wood burning and popping could be heard. The old man thought that if humans had a soul, it would be something like firelight or firefly light. Looking at it now, well, I guess I don't know. S said, toying with the empty paper cup in his hand. I wonder if that number can be called a large outbreak. If so, did someone drown in the river again this year? I was moved, but at the same time, I had a slight doubt in my mind. I remember when you said, "Oh, by the way, Kay, you brought a bug net. Didn't you use it?" I asked him. Probably, he brought it because it was the quickest way to catch the light to see if it was a human soul or an insect. Oh, I forgot about, oh, never mind. It's not a human soul. They were fireflies. They were flickering in synchronization. It was fireflies, Kay said. Oh, the thing that was going off and on and glowing at the same time. That's right. That's because that's the habit of fireflies. They distinguish males from females by glowing at the same time like that. But I thought they were the souls of drowned people who had died before, flying around. But there was no disappointment on Kay's face. He had seen so much. It would be strange if he was not satisfied. We then sat around the fire and talked a little, opened 2 bottles of whiskey and half a bottle more, and decided to go to bed. We were excited but quite drunk, so despite the tropical night, we were able to fall asleep quickly. The next morning, when I woke up, I was the last one left in the tent. When I went outside, S was sitting on a stone on the riverbank, fishing, and K was floating in the river with a glass bucket on the bottom, looking for something with a net. The day was clear and cloudless. After washing my face in the river water, I went to S who was fishing. I asked him, "Did I bring a fishing rod?" He said, "I picked it up in the bushes there yesterday." I asked him what he was using for bait, and he told me that he had caught a white-tailed jack yesterday and was using that as his bait. When I asked him to show me, he said that the tip of his hand was really white. By the way, S accomplished the feat of catching 2 splendid rockfish after this. We grilled them with salt and had them for lunch. When I went to K, he said he was trying to catch a small fish called gory. By the way, he caught about 10 gory later, which were to be used as ingredients for miso soup for lunch. The gory were very bony and tasted very bad. They are both in good health. I was strolling along the riverbank as far as I could go. Then I suddenly noticed a black insect carcass at my feet. A red helmet with a cross pattern and black armor. I picked it up and found it to be the carcass of a firefly. I took it home and showed it to Kay. He said, Oh, it's a firefly. A firefly. He glanced at me and said nothing more, then bent over again and returned his attention to the water. He got up, grabbed my arm, and looked at the dead firefly once more. "It's a Genji firefly," Kei muttered. "What's a Genji Bataru?" "Oh, you see the cross pattern on its head? I thought it was a Hyakan Bataru. I thought they were Hyaka fireflies, but why are they appearing at this time of the year? It's been out a month or two too late." I looked again at the dead Genji Bataru in my hand. Kei said something like, "That's funny," and took out his cell phone from his pants and started to look something up. Perhaps he was checking the ecology of Genji Bataru on the internet. Ah? After a while, Kei made a strange noise. He stared at the screen of his cell phone. "What's wrong with, did it say we're still coming out in August?" "No, it didn't." "No, I didn't know that either." "So what?" Kei showed me the screen of his open cell phone and said, "So what? It's the scientific name for Genji fireflies. Luciola cruciata is Latin for glowing cross. I see a black cross visible around the head, but I wonder if this is a cross. I don't know what they are blessing, but I guess not all drowning victims are Christian. I don't know what they're celebrating, but not all drowning victims are Christians, either," he said and gave a small laugh. "A glowing cross. I remember last night's light. This is the season when children play in the river, a month or two later than the season when Genji fireflies glow. Only in the years when people drown and die, the glowing crosses fly around. I wonder if they are completely unrelated to each other or not." Suddenly, I remembered the song S hummed last night. When I asked him what he meant after that, he said in a tedious manner, "I'm not sure. It's a song that compares one soul, which is sinking in love, to a firefly. People have long compared the human soul to the light of a firefly." I shook my head. "I don't understand anything." After lunch we packed up our tents and carried our gear back to the car. Before we left, Kei said, "Wait a minute," and headed for the top of the suspension bridge with a half-empty bottle of whiskey. As I watched to see what he was going to do, Kei turned the whiskey bottle over from the bridge and dumped all the remaining liquid into the river. "Hey, thanks for waiting for me." I thought about asking Kei what he was doing when he came back, but decided against it. I thought about asking Kei what he was doing when he returned, but decided against it. Then, there was no need for me to ask him. The car started and we left the river. We left the river. It was fun. I told him how I really felt in the car as we started to drive away. I suggested to them, "If we have another chance, let's go again." "Oh, I see. Then let's go to the mountains next time," said Kei. "It's pretty far." "It's pretty far," Kei said. "There was once a mountain that became famous for a man-eating bear." "No, please don't say that," I thought.